All right, it's the 17th March 2019. Hello and welcome to In Focus. I'm Ethan Tashovia. Now, since 2017, the Rwandan government says some 980 Rwandans have been irregularly deported from Uganda, while a total of 190 have been arrested and tortured. Others been harassed. Rwanda says that at least 106 Rwandan nationals are currently being held in Uganda with no access to lawyers or consular services. Now, Rwandan citizens have also been advised not to travel to Uganda until matters have been sorted out. Rwanda also accuses Uganda of sabotaging exports and trade, noting that the issue is likely to feature in the East African community for discussion. Rwanda's exports to Uganda are estimated at around 19 million US dollars. That's approximately 1.6 billion Rwandan francs. Rwanda also accused Uganda of harboring elements including the Rwanda National Congress, NRNC, and the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, FDLR, among others, that I have intention of destabilizing security in Rwanda. However, Uganda and Ugandan officials deny these allegations, and they say that they have not tortured or arrested or harassed any Rwandans. Uganda government spokesperson Ofono Opondo recently responded to Rwanda's accusation, saying that, as I quote, "There's no witch hunt for Rwandese in Uganda. There's also nobody from Rwanda being held by the Ugandan authorities for any reason. We would like to send a clear message to Rwanda that there's no one in Uganda, there's no one Rwanda is housing from Rwanda or has in custody." To discuss this matter, I'm joined by an informed panel. To start with, State Minister in charge of East African Community in Foreign Affairs Ministry, Olivier Ndovungirehe.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Don Kaibanda, one of the people who were recently detained, arrested in Uganda.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for finding time to speak to us. Then there is Kenneth Agutamba, a media consultant and a columnist, a Ugandan living in Rwanda. He has been here for as long as I can remember. Thank you so much, Kenneth, for joining us tonight. And of course, you can always engage us in this discussion with the hashtag InFocus at RW, and I'll read them loud and clear here on this show. Send us your comments and your opinion, and we'll be able to respond to some, of course, that will be sent, some that we'll be able to read. But let's start off with Don. You heard what the government of Uganda says. They don't have anyone in their cells, in their safe houses. And then we hear you being arrested. And of course, you've given testimonies before. Why were you arrested? How were you arrested? And just tell us about that story, and what do you make of these statements coming from across?
Why? I really don't know why I was arrested. Just found seated with friends, and I think out of one of the people I was seated with, by just pointing out that I could be found as a major at the borders, as a security senior at the borders, I could help any of them in case they're in trouble. Just by that discussion, it could have come out of there. I just saw somebody coming to me and greeting me and said, "Can I talk to you?" I innocently walked with him, thinking this person may be knowing me and wants to tell me something. A few steps away, I just realized other people grabbing and lifting me into a minibus, and blindfolded and handcuffed and driven off to the destination I was taken to, which I came to realize I was in Mbuya Barracks.
Mbuya Barracks?
Mbuya Barracks, yeah.
Have you been in the army before?
Never been.
Now, how many Rwandans did you meet in Mbuya, first of all?
I may not be precise with the number, but averagely there were 30-something. 30, yeah.
There you go. So what do you make of, this kind of statements from Uganda saying that, we don't have any Rwandans?
Really, it also beats me. I don't know why they say that the allegations and what. I don't understand why they say the allegations. I was there myself.
And that's one of the reasons we actually used the word alleged illegal detention in our statement, because we wanted to make sure and make it clear right here that you are arrested, and then we clear the air. Now, Minister, the Rwanda-Uganda tension is not new. It's not new. It has happened before. Why is it? What is the reality of things? What is it that we don't know as Rwandans, as probably ordinary citizens of both countries?
Thank you very much. First of all, we need to set the context. Uganda, as you know, is a neighboring country to Rwanda. But Uganda is more than a neighboring country. We have historical ties, family relations, and even trade partnership. Yeah. I don't need to recall the role of Rwandans in the liberation struggle in Uganda, and the role of Uganda in the liberation struggle in Rwanda, and also the fact that we have Uganda and Banyarwanda settled in Uganda for a long time, and then Ugandan citizens living in Rwanda and working in Rwanda. So we are in that context. But for quite some time, we had a problem with Uganda. We have said on several occasions that we have three problems with Uganda, yes. But when you look at it, we have only one problem with Uganda, and the two other problems derive from the main problem. That problem is the support of the Ugandan authorities to subversive elements, armed groups that want to destabilize Rwanda. Now it's the RNC, Rwanda National Congress of Kayumba Nyamwasa, and FDLR, which is established in eastern DRC. They are people, Rwandans, some of the Rwandans who are arrested, actually they are arrested by those operatives of the RNC. So this is the main problem you have of support of Ugandan authorities to subversive element against Rwanda. And then you have the other two problems. The first is, as Don said, the arrests, illegal arrests, torture of Rwandan citizens for no reason, without any charge, without any explanation. As you gave the figures, and really will try to work with our Ugandan counterpart without success. Because I've read on social media that why don't you solve the issue by diplomatic channels? Why are you going to social media? We did, actually. When Rwandans started to be arrested in 2017, we sent notes, diplomatic notes, not verbal. We sent more than 13 that were not answered at all. The reaction actually you saw started this month, exactly in March, while we are waiting for 2 years now. This is the second problem of arrests of Rwandans and total Rwandan in Uganda. Then the third, you said it also, it's the economic sabotage, meaning there are containers of minerals that were arrested, that were held in Uganda for more than 6 months without any reason. And then when we asked the Uganda Revenue Authority, they said that nothing, all is in order, your container is in order. We have other authorities, they said everything is in order, but the security organs held that containers for more than 6 months.
Including infrastructure projects that have stopped?
Infrastructure projects, the railway, Standard Gauge Railway from Mombasa, on which Rwandans, Kenyans, and Ugandans were working on for quite some time. All of a sudden, the plan, Ugandans changed the plan, which...
I understand it's going to South Sudan. Is that the matter?
That was the change of the plan that was not worked on between the three countries for years. And then, of course, there were, the milk that was exported to
Uganda.
Not even to Uganda, to Kenya, through Uganda. And then they held the milk until it gets spoiled. So we have that issue of economic sabotage, but those two problems of economic sabotage and the arrests of Rwandans are related to the main problem, which is the support of Ugandan authorities to subversive elements that want to topple and destabilize the government of Rwanda.
We'll get back to that, but let me also engage, Kenneth, you've been here for years. I feel, I don't know, it doesn't sound right to call you Ugandan living in Rwanda, but you are born in Uganda, educated in Uganda, and now you're here working in Rwanda. What has been your experience throughout this season, especially when things have heated up?
Thanks, Ethan. I think, first of all, as a Ugandan on this table and representing a lot of my friends, Ugandan professionals in this country, I would like to start by identifying myself with the pain and the bad experience our brothers Rwandans have gone through in Uganda. As somebody who has lived here for almost 9 years, I've never experienced any kind of mistreatment. So I feel it's a bit unfair to hear stories like Don's and many others that we've been, hearing from press, but also leaders like the Honorable Minister. So myself and my colleagues out there, we want to really identify ourselves with this pain and to really say that as Ugandans, we really don't associate with whatever aggression that the government is actually inflicting on ordinary Rwandans who are actually doing business or any social affairs in Uganda. And on that note, I want to symbolically hug my brother and welcome you back home. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but this has been an ongoing story for, I think, almost 2 years. And like the minister says, we have such a strong bond historically that whatever is happening is quite shocking. I wrote an article 4 years ago, and I alluded to Uganda as, in diplomacy, I think, Minister, you would know about the term first neighbor diplomacy. I called Uganda a first neighbor to Rwanda because of the history that the minister just put on the table. So, but again, as a student of international relations, I know that it's the interaction of states and non-state actors as they pursue their interests. Most of the time, it's security and protection of a country's sovereignty. Now, when you look at the Uganda-Rwanda situation, in between the interaction of Uganda and Rwanda, in between, like the minister says, there is a non-state actor or two that are actually at the center of destabilizing what we have always known as cordial relations between the two countries. And we've heard about RNC operatives freely managing affairs in Uganda. And we've also heard about the businessman, Mr. Rujugiro, who is also apparently supporting this. So these two non-state actors operating in Uganda, the question would be, why would a friendly neighbor, one I called the first neighbor in diplomacy 4 years ago, why would they harbor forces that are bent on destabilizing the security or even infringing on the sovereignty of a country?
And that actually brings me to the question of, has Uganda lost touch, has lost control over its forces? Because these are the people who are being, To
be honest with you, as a Ugandan, I'm going to be honest with you. Back home, we have a president that we all loved at some point, a revolutionary who brought hope to that country. I was born the year he came to power, and he's been around since then. There was a time he offered, and he was a symbol of everything that an African would hope for. That time, that bus, that boat has since sailed. When you look at, if you follow Ugandan media, when you see a lot of the things that actually happen in the press, banks being closed over WhatsApp, criminal elements operating within a police force, killing Ugandans. So you could be right that probably the leadership, the government, is probably not in control of managing and making sure that they're in control of all elements within their territory. Because if such things could happen, then it's actually possible and true, because evidence apparently has been presented to the Ugandan leadership that you have RNC operatives working in Uganda. It wouldn't surprise me if you see everything else that has been covered in the Ugandan press about Uganda. So you see a country that seems to have lost track, and you see a country that seems, the NRM party seems to have lost what you would call priority, because in terms of diplomacy, Rwanda would be a priority neighbor if I was a leader. I've been in this country for 8 years, and I've been to my embassy only twice. And the first time I was to the embassy was in, I think, October last year. I went there because I was angry. I wanted to engage my ambassador, my representative here. And I told her, what are you doing about what is going on? Because this whole thing, as a professional living here, it has devalued the stock value of a Ugandan professional on this market. And I would understand, because I can't be a Rwandan being mistreated back home, and obviously socially it kind of infringes on normal relationships. And what I saw from the ambassador is she was also frustrated by the situation.
Sure.
It actually confirms what the president said recently, that Kampala seems not to have made the Rwandan grievances presented to them. They have not taken them as top priority, because from what the ambassador told me, she's made contact with Kampala. Kampala seems to be adamant, and that leaves a person like me pretty much on my own, because on groups like Ugandan professionals in here, we've argued what can we do as professionals in Uganda to identify with our brothers who are being mistreated at the hands of our home government. Because we cannot let that happen in the spirit of regional integration, but also the history, the bond, everything we do here. Like you said, sometimes I forget I'm Ugandan because of how the hospitality you've given us.
Yeah.
So I want to pretty much say that it's a sad experience that we're going through. It's the worst in my 9 years here, and I hope that Kampala really responds, and because the ball has been put firmly in their court, it must be seen to act and actually address these issues on the table.
All right, Don, during your time in the safe house, did you at any point meet anyone who associated themselves with RNC or FDR?
Okay. First, I will tell you, when I entered there, I decided to keep quiet. I just went mute. I would hear people talking, speaking Rwanda. One of them would ask me, "Are you Rwandese?" I say yes. "Do you speak the language?" I say yes. Then they wait for anything out of me, and nothing. So one time I hear one of my, I'll call them inmates, say, there's a way they would release us to go bathe or do what, and they say those two boys claim to have been going to join RNC. Then whoever was telling me here, I asked him, "How do you know that?" He says, "You can even talk to them, they will tell you." Actually, two of them were, yesterday, they brought back, four were deported.
They were deported.
Two of them.
So basically what happens in the cell is that they put you in the same cell with people who are connected to these negative forces,
yes,
to convince you to join RNC or FDLR.
They bring them in everybody's taken in his own way. So whoever talks to the other, they know what they talk. I talked to these two boys and they told me in the beginning, the one who took them was telling them they were going for some good work with good payment. Mm-hmm. When they got to Uganda, he gave them directions. This is their friend from here also, is Rwandese, who lives there, and directed them to a barracks somewhere out of Kampala where they would find him. If not, he gave them another contact. But when they got to Kampala is when he told them that the job place was called RNC.
Interesting.
Which they were going to do and get a good payment. So they went to the barracks knowing they were going to be enrolled into the RNC. And these people in the barracks, the soldiers, also first interrogated them and brought them to where we were, in the CMI headquarters. These boys were never staying with us. They would be interrogated there and taken. Whereby inside there we knew whoever was taken was being taken to Chireka police station.
Yes, they were going to somewhere else.
We don't know wherever they were taking them.
Interesting. Minister, in the recent press conference addressing this matter, Minister Richard Sesbera said that we've been blamed for acting too late, and this is a quote. Do you agree that Rwanda is actually responding too late to this issue?
Not at all. You know what I was saying, the relations we have with Uganda and the fact that we are partner states in the East African community. You know, when the arrests started or intensified in 2017, we approached our colleagues and friends from Uganda. We wrote note verbal. We met as ministers in charge of foreign affairs. Even the heads of state met on several occasions to try to deal with this issue diplomatically. This is what we tried. But at some point, you realize that you can't do anything more. You don't have any control in Uganda. You know, we have control over our security in Rwanda to protect Banyarwanda here in Rwanda. But at some point, in Uganda, we don't have any control. The president was very clear in the last national leadership retreat that he talked to his counterpart. He even begged. He used the term begged to
President Museveni.
Yes.
He said he begged.
He begged so that those Rwandese are released from jail in Uganda, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. And then we kept on hearing stories from families that had were coming to the embassy or here in different institutions in Rwanda, asking us to help them in releasing their family member who were illegally arrested in Uganda. And then we had to realize that at some point we need to strongly advise Rwandan citizens not to go to Uganda, because in Uganda we can't guarantee their security.
That's the action he meant.
That is what what the Minister Sezibera said, I think, earlier this year, because we can't protect Rwandans in Uganda. We tried everything with Ugandan authorities to let them understand the situation, but they couldn't. They didn't hear us. So we had to protect our citizens. This is what we need to do. And then there's an issue that I need to insist on. You know, you have read in the media, especially Ugandan media, that the Rwandans who are arrested in Uganda are spies, or they want to topple the Ugandan government. But even some of the generals, I think there was a general who was in charge of the Republican Guards in Uganda who said that we want to destabilize the Ugandan government. But we didn't receive, not once, a single note, a single protest from Uganda saying that. So this is the rumors that are being spread now, because we have shown that there is an issue on the other side of the border. So we didn't receive, and we even asked them, one of the meetings, we even asked them to say if they have anything against Rwanda, against the government of Rwanda. There was nothing. So it's really an issue. But for now, we want to continue, of course, engaging our Ugandan friends to see if we can solve this issue amicably.
Talking about the media, I wanted to engage a friend and a colleague from Uganda, Raymond Mujuni, who was supposed to be on this panel, but we apologize for some technical issues. He was not able to join us on Skype, and for that reason, these questions I will, address them to Kenneth Agutamba, who is also a journalist. The role of media. Has the media reacted, how has the media rather reacted to the ongoing crisis between Rwanda and Uganda? Do you think they have done their best? Do you think more can be done?
Yeah, before I answer that, I think the first allegations that Rwandans were being arrested in Uganda were spies. We had debates in many chat rooms, and we would argue. But actually, the fact is, I know some of them who are uncles to my very close friends. So these are actually ordinary people, and it's quite sad when you actually hear these stories. And for me, in the East African community spirit, the onus of protecting nationals or East Africans while they're in neighboring countries should not be on the on your home country, but rather on the host or on the country that is hosting you. If a Rwandan goes to Uganda, the Ugandan state should protect that Rwandan as if they are Ugandans, because that's what has happened to us. I mean, I can tell you that I've had a good time in Rwanda. Everybody who knows me knows that. So I think it's really important, not just in the case of Rwanda, Uganda, but just in the region generally, because we had issues. There was a time a Rwandan could not go to Congo, I think 4 years ago. I was a journalist. I had time going there to cover a story. There was a time, even I think up to now, Rwandans were threatened going to Burundi. There was a time Rwandans were harassed, from Tanzania. So some of the things we've had them. And, as journalists, we really need to push this agenda to put whoever is responsible that East Africans should be free to be anywhere within the integrated community. But to answer your question on the role of the media, I think... And by the way, congratulations for making the switch from print to TV.
Thank you so much.
Because when you look at media is very dynamic. So what you've seen is that a lot of players are struggling financially. So that has devalued the quality and integrity of the profession. So a lot of the coverage, I've done a mini media research on this subject. And what I've seen are mainly guns for hire that have been covering this story. A lot of planted, obviously, planted or sponsored stories, but clearly with an intention of either, fueling the tension or basically passing on. There's also been a bit of what I call the megaphone diplomacy, a lot of exchanges, but sponsored through some of these outlets.
Tabloids also coming up.
A lot of tabloids that are not credible. So all this has not improved, but rather worsened the situation that we had in the past. And for me, because of this, in journalism class, they used to tell us that one of the main responsibilities of the media is to set the agenda. What happened in this case is that we failed to set the agenda. This story has been going on for 2 years, and I wish we had Raymond online, because as an investigative journalist and many others, we failed to pick up. How would the media fail to pick up that Rwandans were being harassed? Either they knew it or failed to put these stories out there, or we just didn't have the capacity to unearth them, which is a failure on our part as journalists. So we failed to set the agenda. But we've followed the agenda of the state actors in this role, and that's where we are here. But I'm very happy that we are experiencing what we're experiencing. And I was telling a colleague that it was a major act of leadership when the executive in Rwanda decided to put the current restrictions at the border. Because what they actually mean, that we had a very good year last year when our president was AU chairperson and right now current chair of East Africa. It's the wrong time. If he had put his personal interests ahead of Rwandans, he wouldn't have taken the executive restrictions we have right now. Because if you look at the current media reviews, everybody's kind of putting the blame on the president. How can you close the border? But you see, putting the security of Rwandans and citizens above the interests of individual leaders, for me, was a major act of leadership. But it also brings the matter, which has been ongoing for 2 years, to what I call a climax. Because at this point, and I hope we maintain it at this level so that probably it doesn't escalate into a war or a major military confrontation. But this climax can now be managed, because what you have right now, 2 years ago, we wouldn't even be allowed in our editorials to talk about it freely. Now we are. You know, we've made it an agenda. And for me, this is good, because the East African Secretariat is talking. A lot of other actors beyond the region are talking. The leaders are talking more than ever. And meaning that we've put enough pressure on the Ugandan government, which has not treated, from my sources, which has not made it a top priority agenda for the last 2 years. Now it is becoming a major priority. And I think we have higher chances of getting to a resolution, and probably normal relations between the two countries can actually be, normalized.
All right, we have a lot of questions, coming up. And of course, before I engage the two gentlemen, let me go for a short break. Let us, of course, all of us go for a short break and sip on these glasses of water that are in front of us. And then when we come back, we'll be reading some of your comments on Twitter. Remember, the hashtag is in focus at RWANDA. Let's go for a short break. When we come back, it's this and more.
ubuzima ni ingenzi kandi ubuzima ni urugendo. Ufite ubuzima nta cyiza atageraho. Iyo urwaye utakaza byinshi, birimo umwanya umara urwaye, igihe cyo kwivuza, utaretse n'ubushobozi. Uryamye aha ntaba arimo kwiteza imbere. Nyamara ubuzima burarindwa, burabungabungwa, yewe buranasigasirwa. Ibyo byose biterwa n'agaciro k'ibyo urya n'imyitozo ngororamubiri ukora. Inzira ni iyi rero. Ikiganiro cyacu kidufasha gusobanukirwa indwara zitandukanye ndetse no kuzirinda. Abaganga batandukanye b'inzobere tuzababagereraho badusangiza ubunararibonye bafite. Indwara zose mudasobanukirwa, uru ni rwo rubuga. Inama zitandukanye ku mirire n'imyifatire niyo ntego y'ikiganiro. Buri gihe intero izahora ari yayindi. Menya wirinde.
And welcome back. Keep the tweets coming in. Remember, the hashtag is in focus at RW, rather in focus RW. And now, here are some of the comments. Caleb Elvis Kabshiri Tweva Zembonye. He says, why deny an opportunity to innocent Rwandese students who are studying in Uganda an opportunity to continue with their education in Uganda? Is that fair? Probably this is the question that will be going to you, Minister, State Minister Olivier. And then we have... why do you invite a government official? Did you invite a government official He probably meant, why didn't I invite a Ugandan government official? We tried, but failed. Now there's Cyrus Museveni and his mafia, CMI and ISO. This is tough language here, very strong language. Keep hiding their evil plans and act against Rwanda. It is time now to name and shame. Remember when Uganda red paper journalists were jailed for insinuating that there was RNC officials working with Ugandan officials to disorganize Rwanda. Cyrus, thank you so much for your thoughts over there. Did Kenneth Agutamba just hug Don? Wow. Yeah, I mean, it's a brotherly love. We are brotherly countries, like you said recently. And man, he has to show the brotherhood right here. Katabaro Robert says, at the same time, Rwanda's TV focus will be discussing Rwanda-Uganda. Glad that finally the media is giving the issue an attention it deserves. We need peace in our region. I think he's responding to a comment here that, a TV station in Uganda is also talking about the same issue right now as we speak. This one is worth my time. And of course, this is Butera David. Thank you so much. This is one is worth my time. Thank you so much, David. Zeimana, I think it's a retweet over there. Donata Chiza, what a lineup. I'll surely catch this up. I hope you're catching up. Keep those messages coming in. You remember, it doesn't just end here. But let's go back to this comment, the first one. Here. Why deny an opportunity to Rwandese, innocent Rwandese students who are studying in Uganda an opportunity to continue? Has the government advised students to drop their studies and come back home?
Thank you. As I said, we tried everything to engage our Ugandan friends to deal with the issues of Rwandans who were illegally arrested and harassed and tortured. We tried that. But as I said, at a certain point, we found out that it's difficult to protect our citizens in Uganda. This is why we had to advise and strongly advise them not to travel to Uganda. They are professionals, they are students, they are business people. All of them, we strongly advise them not to go to Uganda. So, of course, we reach an unfortunate situation when people who are working in Uganda, who are studying in Uganda, have to drop their activities. But as I said, this is a solution that we will not have preferred if it was not the situation that was compelling us to do so. So we really, we are still working with the Ugandan authorities to try to solve this issue and then to allow the flow of people between the countries resume because we are both countries in the East African community. We are bound by the Common Market Protocol and the free movement of people, labor, goods and services. So this is an unfortunate situation, but we had to take that decision because the security of our citizens is of paramount importance.
How are you going ready to rather help students if at all they are not able to go back? Is there in some arrangements, discussions going on, make sure that you help students, Rwandan students who have been studying in Rwanda?
Discussions are,
rather in Uganda.
Yes, discussions are going on. To some extent, this situation was a wake-up call for Rwandans because there are some services that Rwandan were going to get from Uganda, also including product and commodities in Uganda that we can do or give here in Rwanda. So that was really a wake-up call so that we can find alternative solutions for those students, for basic services that Rwandans were going to get in Uganda, and also some of the products that were important from Uganda that we can produce here. So it was a wake-up call, and then we will continue to see how we can be self-reliant at the border, but also to try to solve the situation.
Sure.
Because we need to continue talking with Uganda so that we have this situation, the support to armed groups and the harassment of Rwandans and economic sabotage are ended.
And the purpose is not just to cross the border. Now, this brings me to the question. This will probably go to all of you. Do you think both governments of Rwanda and Uganda have been open enough to reveal the reality of things? Don?
I don't think. When you say both governments, I will tell you, if they are saying nobody is being arrested, that is not being open. I was there. There are people who are still there. Rwandese who have been there, why don't they say they are there and say they are being charged for this and this, rather than just keeping allegations that they are allegations and people are languishing around there. That is not being open.
True. Kenneth?
I watched President Kagame speaking during the leadership retreat. And as a journalist, we tend to be very good at body language. I don't think a leader of his caliber and integrity would lie. He told us things that up until that time we had only speculated about. So I have no reason to disbelieve him. However, I think on the Ugandan side of things, I don't think the Ugandan government is being honest to itself on several fronts. One, if you look at, you just cited those numbers at the beginning, the balance of trade between these two countries is in Uganda's favor. So it would be folly for anybody to have this kind of relationship, knowing that actually the person who loses most are the Ugandan traders who have been making noise at the border over spoiled goods. So any government that cares about its people who are trying to earn an honest living would not be honest to themselves. So that's one. Two, Uganda is also not being honest when it comes to activities within its territory. What is happening right now in Uganda, for example, most of the focus is on the next election, not very important priorities that affect ordinary Ugandans. I heard they are currently looking at ways of changing the constitution to mitigate certain potential opposition. But we've all been following Ugandan media on the criminal enterprise that is happening in Uganda, like people operating within the national police to benefit from crime, basically selling crime, And this is how some of these external elements, you see, a country that is, most of these to a larger extent are effects of corruption. A country that is infested by corruption, basically these would be some of the results you see. Criminal elements, non-state actors operating within the state itself and actually becoming a government in itself. These things have been going on. I gave you an example of how banks were closed on WhatsApp. Some of them affected the Rwandan economy because one of the banks was operating here. So when you look at all these things, you see a government that is that need warming. There are worms eating this government from the inside. And RNC is a worm that you could cite. But you see, as in international relations, they say, if to protect your country, you have sometimes to go beyond your borders to make sure it happens. Only 25 years ago, this nation was almost in abyss. It's been put where it is. I would understand if an extreme decision was taken to protect what you have today as a Rwandan nation. So a lot of screening needs to be done on I'm being tight and strict on my own country because I'm not very happy with what the leadership has done, and I've put myself on record before my own ambassador. I told her I'm not happy with how you guys are handling this situation. There are 30,000 Ugandan professionals here. I told you that they have, stock value on this market has gone down because of this reckless diplomatic management tactics. So to answer your question, I believe what the president said is what has been happening. I just want my president on the other side
To speak.
to also take
out.
this as a top list agenda and actually address it, because it's actually affecting ordinary Ugandans, who most of whom have been sending money to look after their families. If all these people lose jobs and go back home, they will form part of the opposition that he's currently, working against. So it's a very important affair, and I'm surprised that they are not taking it with the seriousness I would take it with if I was a leader in their position.
If you want to comment on that, you can also probably comment on, a few days ago we had the Vice President of Kenya when he was in Uganda. He mentioned about looking up to Mr. President Museveni for leadership, and also saying at this particular time we should not be talking about closing border. For me, I saw it as a dig, what they say, as an aim of a challenge to Museveni to sort whatever issue was leading to the closing of the border. I don't know if you understand how you understood that.
First of all, Rwanda didn't close the Uganda-Rwanda border. As you know, we have constructions on Gatuna one-stop border post, which will be completed maybe at the end of May. This is why heavy trucks had to be diverted to Kagitumba through Mirama Hills in Itungamo district, or to Chanika in Kisoro district. So the border was not closed. And you remember in his opening speech at Umwiherero National Leadership Retreat, President Kagame spoke about that, about the border. He was even asking the concerned ministers to tell him when the timeline for the completion of the works.
That's right.
So he was also concerned about that, because for us there's no way of closing any border. And then we believe that when leaders in the region are speaking up, it's good to start about the violation of human rights, basic violation of human rights, and also the violation of the common market protocol of the East African community, especially the free movement of people. Rwandans are arrested and tortured for the past 2 years. We never heard those leaders in the region, even beyond the region, commenting on the situation, on even being interested by the situation. So it's really something strange to see that when there is an issue of Gatuna,
and goods.
well, yes, for heavy trucks, a partial closure of the border because of constructions, that we have some people going around saying that we are closing the borders and so on and so forth. So this is really an issue we don't understand, because we didn't close the border, and then the real issue of harassment of Rwandan and also of support by Ugandan authorities to armed groups and subversive movement against Rwanda. Yeah. So those issues are not talked about, and then we just hear just a few days ago that there's an issue. But where were they when Rwandans were starting to be harassed in Uganda? And as for your question, there is also that issue of moral equivalence that really is not right. We have seen read in the media, on social media, that both leaders need to sit down and then discuss about the situation, hug, and then solve the problem. But this is not how the situation is. You know, this issue is more than 22 or 23 years back, because there have been ups and downs, but there was that activity in Uganda of supporting movements or people who want to destabilize us. So the president was clear and was open when he opened the National Leadership Retreat. We have those 3 issues that we raised. So we are ready as Rwandans to discuss those, and then so that they are solved, meaning support to those groups, harassment of Rwandans, and economic sabotage. We are ready to continue engaging our Ugandan authorities so that they solve this issue. But those comments in the news that there is a moral equivalence, that Rwandans and Ugandan president have to sit down and then solve the different, is not right. We need first to point out the real issue that is between Rwanda and Uganda.
Now, gentlemen, we have 6 minutes to wrap it up. But what is at stake if this conflict goes on? I will start from probably you very quickly, and then we go with the rest of the team, that is the rest of the panel, brother.
I will come back to the retreat, national retreat, and to the speech of the president, and when he laid down the three options. With the preferred option, which was option one with that, which is that Rwanda wants to be friend with Uganda, to have economic cooperation, to have trade. This is a preferred option because we know that we are neighbors, that we need to trade to each other. We are all members of the East African community. You know, our community, East African community, trade among us is beneficial to all of us. All of us. Mm-hmm. We know that. As Kenneth was saying, this situation causing trouble in the business community, Uganda business community, but also Rwandan business community. So this is the first thing. We want to befriend and then to continue our economic cooperation with Uganda. Then the second option, which is not a preferred one, is that to ignore each other, to say that, okay, you do your business, I do mine, and then we will give peace to each other. That is the second option, but which is not preferred from our point of view. And then the third one, if Ugandan authorities continue on this path, supporting subversive elements that want to overthrow the government of Rwanda, we said that we will be ready to defend our country and to defend our citizens. That was really clear. But we will continue to work with Uganda around the first option. But we are ready for any other option.
They're ready for other option. What do you make of that, Don?
Okay. If these people are arresting people and claiming they are spies, why don't they take them to court and charge them for that? And show it to the Rwandan government and say, this is your...
Yep.
These are people here trying to spy on our government and any subversive mission, them, hand them over or do whatever, other than just keep making
anyone,
and just claiming this is then keep somewhere in a dungeon and release after months, no case, no nothing, being tortured. I'll tell you what is, I didn't give you the kind of things they do.
Real fast.
Though we think they torture and do. You know, if I told the blindfold they put on me first was sprayed with chili pepper.
Oh, really?
Yes. So the first time I didn't know what it was. I went trying to play around with my eyes until I got somebody there and told me that is pepper that is working on you. So you can see these things. And then after that you just carry me and put at the border. And you don't tell me why you had arrested me. I go back home and I meet us and asking me why were you arrested. I don't know. All that time you're there.
I know.
So if they solved that and culprits are good, then things will settle up.
Sure. Kenneth, this would probably be your last remarks.
I think
do you also see an end to this?
Of course, there must be an end. There's no option to that. Unfortunately, right now, as things stand, we're on a dangerous path to a really terrible destination, and I hope we really don't go there because we have the capacity to stop this ball that is rolling to a really, really dangerous place. What is at stake? It's the ordinary interaction between Rwandans and Ugandans, that I don't think it will ever be the same, because like the minister says, yeah, when some of these things happen, you kind of try to build and make yourself a self-contained country, which is really not good. But I hope that a solution will be brought and normal relations be restored as soon as possible. And I hope Uganda will take this as a very serious matter, because from what we've heard and the evidence that some of us have seen, it seems they're not giving it the priority it deserves. And we pray as Ugandans in Rwanda that they really give it the attention it deserves, and hope that Rwandans who are still incarcerated get home safely or released or be charged professionally, and we all see that justice seems to happen.
Sure. Minister, you have your closing remarks?
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting us, and it's important that we continue speaking to the public about this issue. We recall our advisory notice of all Rwandans that unfortunately we can't protect them in Uganda, so that for the time being, why we are still discussing with Uganda and try to solve the situation, that they should refrain from traveling to Uganda. But we believe that it is important in our region, in our community, the East African community, that we really work towards promoting this community, sure, promoting free movement of people and goods, so that we build this strong community that is one of the really building blocks of the African Union.
Thank you so much. Don,
this Honorable Minister for what he did. I think he played a very big role for me to be back, and the rest will still come, because I read his tweets and I really thank him so much.
Thank you so much for the entire government of Rwanda for helping out even some of those who are still detained in Uganda to be able to access consular service. And thank you so much on behalf of my team and of course the panel. Thank you so much, Honourable Minister Olivier and Hunje. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Kenneth, for joining me. And of course, thank you so much for joining us from your home states. And it's been an awesome conversation, but it doesn't stop here. It's the hashtag in focus. You can always send in your opinion and your comment, and we can always engage and make sure that we create a conducive environment where East Africans can move freely and trade freely and live freely. It's me, Ethan Tashobia, and on behalf of the rest of the team, have a very good night.